Welcome to the Watts Wellness Podcast. My name is Corey Watts.
And my name is Sanchia Watts.
Based in Perth, Western Australia, both of us have been on our own self-development journeys for many years now, which has led to this moment.
The intention behind the Watts Wellness Podcast is to help you meet yourself deeply as you navigate your own human experience.
Become present in this moment.
Take a deep belly breath.
And be open to receiving this week's episode. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Watts Wellness Podcast. My name is Corey Watts, and as you would know, this is Sanchia Watts. Welcome.
It's only in the intro, but hey again.
Yeah, that's it. Double up, just so everyone remembers. What are we? Episode 16 now, so you've probably heard that 32 times. So
Really?
Yeah, crazy, isn't it?
How?
What do you mean, how?
32 times for 16 episodes.
Because we normally say it for some reason when I intro, and then we also say it in the intro. So
Do we?
16 times 2.
Wow, there we go.
Maths. Really get the brain firing. What's been going on, Sam? It's been a while.
It's been a while, brother. Brother from another mother. Jokes.
Same mother.
Well, yeah, heaps has been happening actually. We've just started back at Sound Healing Perth. That's well underway. And I've been a busy bee actually. I've been working weekends, working weekdays. I probably do need to slow down a bit. But yeah, just been hustling hard. Ashley has just started at Sound Healing Perth. So she ran her first class last night actually, which was very cool to have a Sunday evening off. It was actually a bit weird, but I just did some admin work and some preparation for my Reset and Reclaim Girlies. That's the 12-week course that has now started. We're coming into week 2 this week. So yeah, just been recording a bunch of guided meditations and hypnosis things for them to help them subliminally reprogram their limited ways of thinking or just things that they want to change. And yeah, that's been taking up probably most of my energy whilst also looking to expand into some new suburbs this year as well.
Nice one.
Lots of admin prep behind the scenes for just, 2 nights a week of sound healing. I don't know if people really realize that, but literally every day I'm on social media, making reels, making content, smashing it out, getting people hyped, sending emails, but yeah, loving it.
Love it. Yeah, so good.
How are you, bruv? What's been going on?
Yeah, ditto a little bit. I don't know. At the moment, pottery has started back, so we're in full swing at the moment, me and mum, with our little business here. So been smashing that out. It's the same sort of thing. A lot of social media work and just promoting, and we've had to catch up on coursework and just getting everything fired and glazed and little fixes around the place. So yeah, it's been pretty busy coming to the start of the year, but I kind of like it as well. Like it's that sense of like doing and like accomplishment. Kind of had my rest over like Christmas and reset a little bit over the new year, and now it's time to get stuck into some stuff. So yeah, it's been busy with that. We started back at footy as well 2 weeks ago, so pre-season is well underway. At the time of recording this, I actually go off to Bali this Wednesday, so
Yay.
Super excited for that. So I get a little 5-day break. So I think that's why part of the reason I've been pushing hard and not feeling super worried about it, because I knew that I was going to get this little break at the moment. So yeah, it's going pretty well. Very excited for that and keen, and got little things underway, little masculine formula page as well on Instagram that's firing, and just a lot of work, but it's good. It's fun stuff. So
It's funny, like even though it's a lot of work, it kind of doesn't feel like work because we actually love doing what we do.
yeah.
So we're very, very lucky in that sense.
And it's enjoyable. Like you manage it as well. Like it's on your own time a bit as well. And we do have, as much as the days are pretty filled, we also can do what we want to do during the day a little bit and schedule our time. So it is, very grateful.
Yeah, I wanted to also highlight, I've had some people asking at Sound Healing, like, how's the no alcohol thing going? Because I put that on a podcast, didn't I?
Strength and a challenge, yeah.
Well, yeah,
fill me in.
This can lead into it. The strength has definitely been, I've had no alcohol, guys. I've kept to
it.
Do
we have an applause or something on here? I think we do. Oh, yeah.
That's so funny. Oh my gosh.
Well done.
Not that I was like a severe drinker or anything, but I loved a social bevy on weekends back in the day. And this year I told myself I'm going 3 months of no alcohol, and yeah, it's feeling good so far.
Nice.
I've also been doing, I actually went and saw Dr. Rona, who we had on the podcast this morning.
Nice.
And she has, advised me that maybe a low histamine diet is what I need to move towards.
Wow.
Which has actually provided a lot of answers to a lot of different little issues that I had, like some skin stuff, cycles, all that. It's all been happening behind the scenes, lots of hormone stuff happening and diving into that world and cutting out alcohol and just going on this low histamine diet for the next 3 weeks is going to hopefully bring me back into balance because my challenge has been dealing with like a lot of fatigue lately, a lot of brain fog, just feeling like quite a bit scattered, honestly, which is a bit weird for me. So we're going in to heal my gut over the next 3 weeks, guys, and I'm sure it will be a great future podcast episode for you all when I talk about that journey.
Beautiful. So exciting.
Your strength and challenge.
Yeah, I think my strength at the moment has been just getting on top of everything that I've needed to be doing. We obviously spoke about that a minute ago, but yeah, it's been really good just to be able to get organized, scheduled stuff. I really, when I'm going away at the moment, want to go and not have any work distractions and actually being able to just be present and do all of that. So yeah, been working really hard to make sure that that's going to be the case. So super excited for that. That's definitely been the strength. I think the challenge for me lately has been, I would say, this is good because at the moment I kind of feel like I'm in one of these phases at the moment where everything's kind of aligning and actually feeling really good. I was saying this just the other day. I have a bit of a universal sign whenever I need like a bit of a sign from the universe. I ask to see a feather and I've just been seeing them everywhere at the moment, just feeling like right place, right time. So it's actually quite hard to think of a challenge at the moment. And I think that can be celebrated sometimes as well. But I think if I had to put my finger on something, it would just be probably fatigue management a little bit. Like it has been a strength to get everything done, but with football and training when it's high intensity as well, definitely been finding myself just quite exhausted and quite knackered. And there's definitely, we spoke about it on the episode with Cam Watkins, that sort of Goggins mentality that's very much out there, a bit about pushing yourself and going really hard. But as Cam mentioned in that episode as well, if you haven't checked it out, make sure you go and listen. It's important to take a break sometimes as well. And I think I find that to be a challenge sometimes to know when to just listen to my body and rest. And I think it's also been a growth this year and something I'm better at, but still something that's challenging for sure.
Nice. There you go.
Bit of what's the expression? A well-winded.
Well-winded response.
What? Long-winded.
It's turning into a whirlwind, actually.
Yeah, that's it. But excited for today's episode. Do you want to lead us in what we're going to be sort of discussing?
Yeah, guys. So Corey and I decided that we are now ready to record this episode, which is quite large. It might be a bit controversial for some, but I don't think it will be, but it could be. But we are doing this episode on what the opposite sex needs to know about the opposite sex. Wait, what? We're doing what women and men want the other to know.
Yeah, the title will be a lot clean cut, so you probably know already where we were going with this one anyway. But I think the point you made was a good one. Like we are generalizing a bit here. So sometimes, you might be listening to this as a male and listening to what I have to say and going like, oh, I don't really agree with that. And that's okay, entitled to your own opinion. But these are just our opinions on the topic and we think there are, most of you will agree. So
and we're going
to hear it. I haven't really heard what Sanchia's going to go with today. So
yeah, and I haven't really heard what you're going to go with. So wish us luck.
So that'll be fun.
But I think honestly, the goal and the intention is just to open up a can of worms, obviously, but kind of just notice, which I think we'll actually end up noticing after we listen to it back, but just like when the ego comes into this, like these can be quite egocentric points, but they might also just be viewed from sort of like the higher self as well. So we're going to sort of obviously try and blend the spiritual and the physical as we always do. But
Nice.
Let's see how we go.
Fire away.
No,
ladies first.
You start.
Ladies first.
All right. Tip number 1.
Tip 1. Okay. Hit me with it.
I think that men need to learn to trust a woman's intuition.
Ooh.
I think
No,
women are biologically, inherently intuitive.
Mm-hmm.
We really, really are. We all have the sixth sense. And some women might not believe in that, but we are literally the bridges of the metaphysical and the physical. We give birth to human life. How can you say that we are not intuitive or spiritual on some leveling degree? And I think it's really important for men to learn how to trust a woman's intuition. The more that you can do that, the more flow you'll have in your life.
So what helps a man to trust a woman's intuition? What are some of the things that a woman needs to do to be able to allow their man to feel like they can trust a woman in that?
There's two questions in there. So the first part is men need to listen to women and they just need to have trust in themselves to trust their woman. And then the second part of that is women probably almost need to provide some evidence to the man in the beginning of when they have trusted their intuition and things have played out really well to help him have more trust in her own intuition. And I think women also just need to deliver these messages in like a calm, present state of way that's not putting them into a victim mentality, but sort of shows their man or a man how trusting their intuition will ultimately help them come to a better endpoint in this situation.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I think you almost flip them though, hey, don't you reckon? So it's almost like got to provide a bit of evidence and like build a bit of trust in that so a man can feel like, because it's hard for someone to just step in and go, hey, like I've got a bad feeling about this. And then if we've never really overlapped or where it's a fresh relationship, it's hard for me to go like, okay, like we'll back that in, you know what I mean? Like, so do you think that it is just that sort of thing of they've got to provide evidence, or is there something in a woman's, like we talk about energetics, masculine and feminine, is there something that the female can do a little bit so the man is more trusting within that, in those energy types, I suppose?
Not really, honestly. I feel like just trust her intuition is the main point, because sometimes her intuition is not going to make sense to you. Men are very logical, they're ruled by the mind, they're very practical, and they like to take charge. A woman is that yin energy, and that's centered around the heart, and she's going to feel things. She is going to have off feelings about things, and you as a man should learn just to trust that. Get her to explain it to you, but just know that, you know, if she can't provide an explanation, just trust it. Trust her intuition. It will lead you into some beautiful places if you can give up the control and allow her just to trust her own intuition as well. Like if you as a man can encourage her to follow her intuition and get her to tune in with her gut and her heart, like you're going to have a much more substantial relationship, I think, a deeper relationship if you can encourage her to look at her own intuition and follow it.
Okay, cool.
Full stop.
Well, on my next point, the one that I want to lead off with is men want to lead. And that is primitive. It's been something throughout history where you'll hear that you got to just stick with me a little bit here because it's going to sound a little bit like whatever. But, you know, you hear sayings, you know, like the man of the family or the head of the family or like the leader of the tribe or whatever it is. And it's always sort of the man or blah, 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 blah. I think that's changed a little bit into modern society, and I'm not saying that, you know, men rule the world by any means like that, but I think it's in our nature for men, and especially in masculinity, to want to lead, to want to provide, to want to protect. There's sort of the three fundamentals to that. But I'm also going to say that the right is earned through showing that you're connected to your emotion, you're confident in your direction, and you've healed through your shit. So they're the three main ones to then be able to build that trust to sort of show, all right, this male, this masculine male knows what he's doing. Like he knows his direction, he knows where he's going. So I'm going to trust that and I'm going to follow him. I'm going to trust in what he's wanting to do, his goals, his ambitions. And then that leading sort of role comes in. But you definitely have to allow a man to do that. It's part of our nature. It's how we've always been, you know. You can look at animals and things like that as well. The lion, you know, it's the male lion is the pride of the family. Like he's the leader, and that's sort of how it's been through Animalia. And this is going to trigger a few people, but that's just how men feel. And that's like what we want to do. And whether that's right or wrong, like it's just something about us that we want to do. But I think there's a balance between it. And it's probably what I wanted to ask you a little bit, Sanch, is when you're saying with women, like trust intuition, and it's a man's sort of, I guess, primitive nature that wants to lead, what's the balance there for you guys? Like, what do you think?
It's obviously going to come down to each individual's relationship, and obviously opening up those lines of communication and really, really listening to understand the other is going to really help this whole process. I think it's great for a man to lead. I've said this before. Women actually, this might trigger some people, but women want to be led by a conscious, healthy, masculine man. We don't really want to have to decide where we're going for dinner, what time. I don't want to make the reservation. I don't want to have to do all the practicalities. I want you to take care of all that so that I can relax in my feminine energy and flow and be that nurturer and the giver and be that happy sort of bubbly, playful person. I don't want to be in that practical, logical state of mind all the time, because typically in a woman's life, she's already in that on the day-to-day anyway. So when a man can just step up and, take those leadership roles, it's awesome. It's great. I think the problem is that a lot of women have been misled by men in the past, and there is still toxic masculinity out there. And so it is really hard for a woman to give up that control and let someone else in to lead certain parts of their life. And I think for a woman, it's important to know that they're going to lead parts of it. They're not going to lead your whole life. You're still an individual female and being, and you get to decide where you go in your life. But I think it really comes down to each person healing and creating self-trust within themselves so that they can give someone else space to make some decisions and step up.
Yeah, I went pretty black and white there in terms of like a man wants to lead. But the difference here is, so toxic masculinity is me saying, oh, like, I think we should go to this restaurant. Like, we're doing this. Like, let's go right now. And then the woman might say.
And they tell you what to wear and they tell you how to dress, and it becomes kind of like controlling. That's toxic.
I don't mind that sometimes in terms of like picking that out. I think it can be a bit sexy and playful, but I'm more saying that you say you make the plans, whatever it is, and then the woman says to you, oh, like, I've been there before, like, it's not the best. Conscious like masculinity would go, okay, I'm actually going to take that on board, listening to you, understanding you. Fuck that, we're not going to go there. We're going to go here then. Let's do this. And then great, happy families, blah, blah, blah.
I don't think they have to swear, but yeah.
Toxic masculinity is like, oh no, like, don't worry about that. Like, I've been here before. Trust me, it's good. Like, you're not listening. Like,
or
you're not,
they get reactive and they go, well, where do you want to go then? And it becomes like an attack on her.
Yeah, definitely. So I think the balance there is like, men want to lead. They want to provide that, but there's definitely room for women's intuition to come in. And a masculine male who's in touch with his emotions can admit when they're wrong, or can admit when someone's got a better idea than them or just a better feeling about something, and then listens to that and responds to that accordingly.
Yeah.
So I think that's the balance.
Likewise for the feminine. Yeah, definitely.
Nice. Next point. What have you got for me?
So first one is, men need to trust a woman's intuition and like listen to her. And women, you've said, women also need to trust a man's direction and allow them the space to lead. Can I ask you though, I sort of want to go back to that.
I swallowed water so badly. Yes.
Before we skip to the next point though, like, how can a woman trust in a man's leadership?
As I mentioned before, I think it's through the way that you act. So connectedness to emotion. So you're not volatile. You're not reactive to your emotions. For instance, if the car in front of you does some radical thing, you don't start swearing your head off and doing this and that out of anger and rage. Like, you're able to just respond accordingly. And, that's just an example. But in touch with your emotions is a big one.
So I think a man being in touch with his emotions will create safety for a woman.
Definitely. And then I think as well, I would add on confident in your direction. So a man that's kind of like, indecisive, like, oh, maybe we could go here, like, oh, like, I sort of want to do this in my life. Like, it's flaky. Like, you're not actually sure, like, exactly what it is where you want, versus I want to make 100K this year and I want to build my business and I've got a dream of doing this and I'm also going to do this. And these are the steps that I'm taking to get there. Like, that's like, whoa, like, he knows where he's going. He knows what he's got. Like, it's attractive. So I think you build trust like through those habits. And also like doing a healing as well. Like, you've got to heal through your stuff. Sometimes, look, I think there's always room to improve. I think don't fall into the trap as well of like always, going through personal development stuff. The idea is that you heal yourself so you can enjoy life at the end of the day. But I think when there's underlying issues and stuff, to be able to identify that and go, look, I've got this going on, and communicate. Like, this is the other one I'll throw in. Communication is massive, but I've got this going on. I'm taking these steps to fix it up. I know it's a bad trait of mine. Like, that's really like, that's how you earn the trust to lead, because you're being honest, you're just being direct, you know exactly what you want. And it's like an invitation almost, like, I'm going to do this, come with me. I'm going to do this, would you like to come? I've made dinner reservations at 6. Like, it's building that
It's the
trust in the
follow
leadership.
through.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
doing what you say and
Say what you mean and
yeah, say what you mean and do what you say.
oh, is it that?
Say what you
Jeez, we're
mean.
messing all these up today.
No, that's it. Say what you mean and mean what you say.
Yeah, maybe it's that.
It just means follow through. Like if I can see a guy follow through, he says he'll be there at that time, and then he shows up at that time. Like it just creates that trust.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it really comes back in the end of the day when you're assured in yourself and you know where you're going in your direction, that shows. And then
Yeah.
you are trusted for that.
Yeah. And then I think, yeah, you were right. Like on that deeper level, like a man who's in touch with his emotions will be able to hold your emotions as a female. And that feels really safe. If a man can identify his emotions and talk about them, it means that he'll be able to talk about mine. Yeah.
We'll get into a little bit more of this, I think, later throughout the points as well. Like there's definitely interplay, but it's part of the reason why I think part of leading is understanding like the feminine and understanding like a woman as well. Like that's how you build that trust and that leadership. Like when I feel heard, understood, seen as a woman, then that makes me feel like, okay, this guy gets it. Like he knows like how I feel. I feel like I can trust him. Like it builds that trust.
Yeah.
So that's why we're sort of going through all this a little bit today and hoping
Yeah.
it's beneficial.
Makes
so
sense.
what have you got for me next?
Okay, point number 2. Men need to understand that women are cyclical. We have cycles,
Yeah.
and it's important for men to know where their partner is at in their cycle. It is a game changer. It is a game changer to have a man who doesn't get grossed out or weirded out by a woman's cycle, and he can actually embrace it and want to know where she's at so that he can tailor his ideas and his thoughts to suit whatever point of the cycle she's in. So were you aware there are 4 phases of the menstrual cycle?
Yeah, briefly, but I couldn't tell you what they're called.
Okay. So there's 4 weeks in a month. Women have 4 phases in a cycle. Did you know that women only have their period for sometimes 3 to 6 days, 7 days?
I did know that.
Some go to 10 days. It can vary, but there's normally only 1 week in the month where women have a period.
Yeah.
Okay, we're clear. So the first phase of the cycle is the luteal phase, which is normally when there's PMS involved, and that's where hormones are going wild. People can be quite moody, things can take a bit of a turn, and the cravings can come in. And that's really the phase where you want to be extra sensitive to your woman and care for her needs and just allow her the space that she needs to get herself in check. So then you've got the menstrual phase, and that's where you bleed for like maybe a week, maybe 10 days. And that's where bloating's there. Food cravings might be like insane still. We actually have to eat more sometimes when we're in that phase. And it's a touchy time. It's a touchy time as well. Then after that though, the next week, we're thriving. That's our follicular phase. And that's when things are feeling great. We've just shed a layer. It's kind of like a death has happened and now we're in the rebirth and we're feeling good and we're back to, you know, our normal sort of self, normal quotation marks. Then after that, you've got your ovulation phase, and that's where the egg's released. And that's where she's going to want to have intercourse and she's going to want to really dive into all of that. And it's ultimately like the week where creation can thrive. So that happens on about day 14. So it's like in the middle of the month typically. Or in the middle of the cycle, I should say, because obviously we don't start our cycles on the first day of each month. So every woman's at a different phase in their cycle. But that's the general sort of overall phase of a woman's cycle.
Yeah, wow.
And then it repeats. And so if you can know as a man, like where she's at, it's going to make your life a lot easier. Like she might take something really personally one day and you're like, okay, but don't ask in that moment, where are you at in your cycle? Because then she'll be like, you're blaming it on my hormones, and like it's actually valid. Like we literally had this argument like the other week, but yeah, you've got to approach this with compassion and a tenderness, Otherwise it can really offend some people.
Yeah, most definitely.
But yeah, just I think for men to understand that women go through cycles and we actually need more sleep than men as well. We need more rest. We need more downtime, especially in that luteal and menstrual time. We need more rest, more chill. Don't call me lazy during those times.
Yeah, I think luteal is the big one. Like for guys that are out there a little bit going like, whoa, like so many phases, like and getting a bit overwhelmed, like understand like when it's in the luteal time and the menstrual time, obviously, there's a key indicator. And I think a lot of the time, like I don't know if it's that common, but like I feel like a lot of the time partners will let each other sort of know. Like
Yeah.
Females are pretty good at that, I feel.
I think you definitely should be talking about it in your
Yeah.
relationships.
But yeah, you definitely have to be more understanding, more caring, more nurturing. I don't think you have to change how you interact in terms of what you say and do, but you need to understand the reaction that comes back and sort of go, sorry, you need to change a little bit. Like you can't be probably as blunt or direct
Yeah.
as what you normally are, maybe. But I think you also just need to be understanding of maybe the reaction that you get back from certain things that you say and stuff, and understand that it's coming from a place of just a bit of
The hormones
Yeah.
go on a roller coaster. The hormones are taking us on a journey. It can lead to depression. It can lead to anxiety. Like just have compassion for where she's at on the phase, but also know that after those 2 weeks are over, you've got 2 weeks of so much fun and she will be back to her beautiful, bubbly, big self that's ready to just thrive. So like that's when you want to do date nights and you want to get creative and, you know, things might be flying off in the bedroom as well. Like it's a really fun time. So, you know, there's the light and there's the dark, and that whole cycle for a woman is all about death and rebirth. Every month a woman is going through a death and a rebirth cycle. So just honor that, and also know that it can link up with the moon cycles as well. So typically on a new moon, that's when that menstrual phase might be happening. And then on a full moon, that's when ovulation could be occurring. But that's interchangeable for every woman. And yeah, I think it's interesting to know about, but it doesn't necessarily link up with every woman's cycle. But wow, you're really going to impress a woman if you know that.
love it.
So yeah, that's point 2 for me. Understand her cycles.
Yeah, really cool. Yeah, I reckon that's really insightful for a lot of guys out there, and learn a little bit about it because it'll help you in the long run. Point 2 for me, we feel love differently. And I think this is a bit of an interesting one to sort of talk about, but I think women predominantly, like when you think of love, you can correct me here, but for you, it's a lot around nurturing. It's around the acts. It's around what's being said. It's about, you know, cuddles and like playing with hair and like being nurturing in that sort of sense, and very loving, and, you know, making a cup of tea and doing like all the nice things and everything like that. Correct?
I think so. It's about feeling safe,
Yeah.
ultimately.
Feeling safe, cared for.
Through the connection.
Loved. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
through all sort of those things. For men, predominantly, as much as those things are nice, men feel love through sex and through physical touch. And they're probably the 2 big ones. I'm generalizing a little bit here, and I'm not saying, you know, men don't like the odd cuddle or don't like this or that. But a man feels empowered and feels loved and feels all those good emotions through the physical touch and the sex side of things. But I'm obviously going to say a big but here as well. For that to be like working and to be happening, and for your partner to be feeling, and I'm probably talking more about a couples thing here because, you know, single life, everybody loves a bit of fun, whatever. But when I'm talking about in a couple and stuff, women need to feel safe, and that's important for you to be able to provide that environment, so then she can step into that sexuality and then provide for your needs as well, because it is more of a need for men than it is for women, and it is definitely a balancing act. And I think it's really important to understand that within these, you know, 2 different energies, that it's all balance. It's yin and yang, as we mentioned, but it's give and take as well. And you need to be able to give her and fulfill her needs as well, to be able to have your needs fulfilled and met as well. And it doesn't mean that you go make your missus a cup of tea so then, you know, she'll take you to the bedroom. It's not about that. But it is just about, you know, caring for one another, enjoying those little things and feeling. So then there is that sort of mutual sort of balance between them.
Because back to her intuition, she is going to pick up intuitively straight away if you're trying to manipulate her into sex.
Yeah,
like
100%.
we can feel that from a mile away. We can feel if we're trying to get coaxed into it or conned into it. And that is the biggest turn off that there could ever be. So yeah, I think it's about like open dialogue, open communication, and like articulating that There are some women though that absolutely love sex too, and
Yeah, and
might have a higher level of that than their man. But
as I said, like we're sort of generalizing a bit today as well, and that is, definitely about that as well. So there's some people that, feel it, some women that feel love more through sex as well, but they also do enjoy that sort of nurturing side of things as well, and I'd back that into,
Yeah, it's definitely important for everyone, I think. But yeah, that's a good point. Okay, point number 3 is men need to understand the female anatomy. And I think that point speaks for itself. But men, just go do your research and learn about how all of that works and how things happen down there, because I think that would benefit everyone in the long run.
Okay, cool. I'm probably not going to dive too much into this.
Let's not go into it, but just understand her anatomy.
We'll do that as like a 2.5 and now point 3. Did you want to jump with that? Because we're not going to dive into that too much. But go check out your anatomy, man. I'm going to do it in my own time.
Don't check out your own anatomy.
No,
I mean, you
go
should.
check out the anatomy of a woman.
Yes, figure that out.
Yeah. All right, cool.
It's important. I think we've got a voice here and we need to use this. And a lot of women are going to be like, yes, she said it. Woohoo.
All right, cool.
All right. After that, I think men need to understand that women are ultimately about receiving and flowing. She's going to feel best when she can receive, obviously, and when she can also just like give in a nurturing sense, like do anything that's going to help her to be in that state of flow. And wow, it's just going to be great. Just let her flow, let her receive. Just know that's sort of where she wants to be. Even if she's been brought up to think that she has to be hyper independent, or she's had trauma which has made her hyper independent and self-sufficient, and like she's her own parent almost, and she's the guardian, as Dr. Rebecca Ray calls it. Mm-hmm. She's really activated in that protective self of the guardian, and she's got to provide for herself all the time. Just know that ultimately beneath all of that, we really just want to be in that yin, receiving, flowing, soft, nurturing, flowing energy. Like that's the feminine.
Yeah, I think so. That's obviously a good point. But I also do think on that sort of guardian archetype sort of energy that they sort of have, you also need to be able to identify that as a woman, because it's one thing to say like, you've got this and you need to just soften out of that a little bit. But you need to understand why you're in the guardian archetype in the first place to be then able to step out of that. Yeah. Because otherwise it is quite hard to navigate that.
Definitely. And like it all comes back to, not feeling seen, heard or supported in childhood by your own parents. So you became self-sufficient and stood on your own 2 feet because you realize you couldn't trust anyone and you can't depend on others. And I think when women can identify that they do identify with those characteristics or that protective self, then they can almost just begin to gently break down those walls and obviously soften and receive and flow with a conscious masculine man that's ready to step up and lead and provide safety.
Nice. Love it.
Okay, what's your point 3?
My point 3 is men want to be supported. So I think this is a big one as well. But a true masculine male who is connected, all the things that we mentioned before, I've given a rundown on this before, but they want to lead, they want to protect, they want to provide essentially from a connected place to their values, a conscious connected place to their values, and they want to be supported in doing this. So they want to be able to know that you've got their back, that you're there to emotionally support them, that you're going to listen to what they have to say when they need to vent, when they need to tell you things, when they want to cry, they want to feel like they can do that in front of you, and they'll be supported through that as well, because you're probably going to get into this in a minute as well, but archetypes of female is nurturer. It is that sort of the more emotional side of things, and it does provide that sense of support for men when it's done from a connected sort of conscious space. So I think that's a big one for men. There's a bit of work to do for a man so then he can allow that support to come in as well. Like I think it does go both ways, but at the end of the day, it's yin and yang, and it's a balance. It's a one sort of thing at the end of the day. So
break that down a bit.
As in, it makes up one thing. So there's two sides to the coin, and you're a team. Like you need to work together in that, and support is definitely one that needs to come in, I suppose. So I hope that made sense. But I think that's a big one for men and something that probably doesn't get said enough.
So how can women support their man so that they feel supported?
Yeah, I think it sort of comes back to a little bit like allowing us to lead, allowing us to protect, and allowing us to provide. Like they're really the three main pillars for me. I think you need to be able to understand their emotions as well, and the reason why that's coming through. Like there'll be times when a man's angry and you can't be closed off to anger. There's obviously ways of expressing anger, but you can't be afraid of a man's emotions, and you need to be able to support them. And that's such a big one, I think. It's for a man to be able to feel like he can express himself, to be able to take his direction and know that you've got his back, not nitpicking him, not going at him, not, undermining him. Like you want somebody that's on your side. And it's okay to make suggestions and stuff. And then I think that's where it comes back to a male being consciously connected enough and stepping out of the ego enough to be able to go, you know what, you're right on that. Let's do that instead. But at the end of the day, like we just want to be supported. We don't want every little decision we make to have a little hidden agenda to it from the opposite sex. Like we want it to be supported. And I think any conscious masculine male that's, truly in his masculine won't be with a female that's nitpicking him and undermining him all the time.
I think as well that women can support men as well just by like honoring and thanking them when they do show up and they are actually providing something that you love. Like make sure you say thank you and you give that positive praise, because people love to actually feel respected and admired. Okay. Point 4 or 5 now?
This is 4. Well, it's
5.
Okay.
Point,
Nice.
point 5. Now, this is a bit of a rabbit hole, but I think it's important for men to know that there are actually 6, 7 different feminine archetypes. And this goes back to Greek mythology, to psychics and mystics, and Carl Jung, who's a psychiatrist, actually came up with this concept many, many years ago. And so there are all these different feminine archetypes, and women can shapeshift into each of them. And it's just good for people to know, because sometimes she just might be a completely different person one day. And, women and the feminine, extremely multifaceted, very, very cyclical. We're going to change a lot and move a lot. And so these are the feminine archetypes. So you've got the mother, the maiden, the queen, the huntress, the sage, the mystic, and the lover. Then you've also got the divine feminine, who's like the higher self, embodied, intuitive, free-flowing, that beautiful divine feminine is just like divine in nature. Then you've got like the divine. Then you've got like the dark feminine, which is sort of the flip side of that, can get a bit manipulative. It's like the shadow side, jealous, reactive. A woman's desires is like one of the most powerful things in the world. When she's striving towards something, she can use a whole different range of characteristic traits, symbols, mudras, movements to get what she wants. Like women can be very manipulative, very, very seductive. And so these archetypes kind of help people to break it down. And we're obviously glossing over this completely. This is very, very in-depth. But the mother is typically the caretaker, the nurturer, wants to provide. The maiden is very youthful. It's sort of playful and like explorative and sort of just understanding like where they fit in the world. So there's this big transition from adolescence to adult where women go from maiden to mother. And that's pretty much where most of our generation is sitting right now, I'd say. Like we're shifting from maiden to mother. And that's like a big ethereal energy change that happens within a woman. Then you've got the queen, who is all about power and is a queen, basically. She sits on her throne and, that can be, I'd probably say our mum's a bit of a queen actually. The queen, it's that queen archetype. And then you've got the huntress, which is all about personal autonomy, very independent, very driven by external validation and external rewards. So is the queen actually. But then on the flip side of that, you've got the mystic, who is quite introverted, and she's all about the inner validation. And so she's a little bit mystical, a little bit whimsical. You won't really be able to understand or see her because she's very, very mystical and she's in her own inner world, basically. Then you've got the sage. They're kind of like the grandmas. They're the wisdom keepers. They're the ones that know a lot, that are like the wise old souls. Everyone can flip into that archetype, though, of the sage, the healer. Then you've got the lover, who kind of comes in with the mother, but she is here to create and co-create and love and, just be all in her beautiful lover energy. So I think it's important for men to realize there are all these different archetypes that the feminine can come under, and it's just good to notice those cycles that exist sort of over like a bigger timeline, but also know that we can shapeshift into these whenever we want.
Yeah, I would just say probably on that, that's kind of like your extra homework. I feel like if you remember in school when you'd finish all your homework and you got like the bonus sheet, if you were good at maths or whatever it is, if you feel like what Sanchia shared today is you sort of knew all of it, especially around cycles and the anatomy and receiving flow and trusting intuition, that's like your bonus homework. But I think if you are just starting to get into this stuff, focus on some of the early stuff as well, because archetypes are really key. There are some for males as well. For instance, there's the servant archetype, there's a slave archetype, there's a warrior archetype, and they all have different things. And then there's some that are more broad that apply to all of us. For instance, chameleon archetypes, the magician, they're all different sort of traits and they fall under, different things, their habits, the way they look, blah, blah, blah. But understanding archetypes is really good for understanding people in general, and the ones you shared there are really good to be able to understand sort of females, and you can link traits from that. But I would definitely recommend that you sort of go through those first couple of tips that Sanchia gave you and then start diving into this once you're a pro, because it is cool to be able to jump into archetypes and stuff, and it does really help with identifying people and sort of the way they operate, I suppose.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely one that you can definitely do. So that's actually all I had for you today, to be honest, and where I want to leave it for now. I am really excited to hear sort of the feedback on this episode, and I want to see if you guys were excited with it. We will link something in the Spotify, a little bit of a question at the end if you wanted to answer that and give some of your feedback on this episode. But I hope you learned some stuff today, Sanj. What do you reckon?
I think I did. What would your biggest takeaway be from what I taught today?
I think an overriding one for me is balance. Between all of the points that both of us have made today, balance is definitely a key one, that it is all yin and yang, as we mentioned. And there is no taking without giving. So that is such a big one. From what you've sort of shared, I reckon the trusting the intuition one is a really good one, and understanding that balance is a massive one too, about when that is needing to come into play. I think the cycles was really interesting. I definitely knew a bit about it, but not as in depth as what you went there. So that was really cool. And I will get on to understanding the anatomy, because I am probably a bit of a novice. I know a bit, but I could probably go a bit deeper with that and understanding the roles and everything that has to play in there and how it all works. So I like it. You shared some really good stuff. So what about you? What are your takeaways from today?
I think probably just allowing it's actually really hard to like take this on without like taking it personally. There were definitely some points where I felt slightly, I don't know, inquisitive maybe. I got a bit curious about some things that you said, and I've definitely realized about myself that trusting men to lead is a challenge when you've had a few men really not lead you that well in the past. So I think honoring and acknowledging that men really do want to lead. And I think, if a man is comfortable with his emotions, that's like the big telltale sign that he will be able to lead you. I think that really is sort of like almost the number one thing to look for, which is what you pointed out, which was really cool. So just allowing men to lead and step up, and obviously honoring that that's one of their primitive responses was good to know.
Yeah, definitely love it.
I think refresher.
Yeah, I think for anyone out there, it's important as well we haven't really spoken about it much today, but I would say go and have a look to see if you have any cases where you feel like you might have a wounded feminine or wounded masculine, because it's going to make all of the points that we made really hard to sort of dive into for one another if there is an underlying sort of feeling or something there. For instance, if you've been in a toxic relationship before and it's made you close off to the other energy type, none of this is going to land. It's going to be really hard to trust in it and do any of it. So you need to heal through that first before you can sort of step into then understanding it a bit more and gaining this. So I think identifying that is a big one. We both have stuff on our socials at the moment, me at the Masculine Coach and Sanchia on Sound Healing Perth, for the respective energies to be able to start diving into this. But if you're feeling good with that, you're golden, no sort of wounds and stuff there, this will be really good and hopefully you can start implementing it.
Yeah, which is quite rare. So if you are in that position where you have absolutely no wounding and you've done all the healing and you feel completely healed, tops off to you. But I actually always say there's always more healing to be done. It is a never-ending journey and you have to have compassion for yourself. But I think, you know, one of the final big takeaways that I learned from this conversation is that like each energy just wants to be understood. And I think that comes through trust and open communication. They're the big two things, aren't they?
Massively.
That showed up a lot in this conversation today. So thank you for leading us down this path, bro. And I hope you guys enjoyed it.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. And we will see you in next week's episode. See you later.
Bye.